UnitedHealth Group adding to steep losses on the year after the company confirmed it is facing a civil and criminal investigation from the DOJ into Medicare billing practices. Jonathan Kanter, former Assistant Attorney General and CNBC contributor, joins us now. What is your first reaction to this?
So my first reaction is that, first of all, the consequences could be significant for United. If it's found to have violated the law, criminal law, it could be barred from Medicare, which is a huge portion of its business. The second piece that comes to mind here is the scrutiny that Medicare Advantage has received. According to MedPAC, which is a legislative agency, independent, nonpartisan, Medicare Advantage is significantly more expensive, $85 billion or more a year than regular Medicare. And a lot of that is due, at least allegations are that is due to billing practices. And so at a time when there's a lot of focus on government spending, waste, and deficits, this is an issue that could be quite significant to making a dent.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know the specifics, right, of what the government is looking into here and where the scrutiny lies. But I would imagine it's not new for health insurers to be looked into for, upcoding or overcharging, that sort of thing that you're describing.
Correct. So the billing practices is usually relates to a practice called upcoding, which you just mentioned, Sarah. And upcoding is when you essentially make people look sicker than they are in order to charge taxpayers more in terms of caring for those individuals, but not necessarily passing through all of that care. The reason I think it's particularly significant to United is United is vertically integrated. And so whereas traditionally insurance companies would be on one side and providers, doctors, and others would be on the other, United owns both providers and payers. They are in the insurance company and the doctor. And so they're effectively billing themselves and then paying themselves through transfer pricing.
So what's the process from here? What happens next? It's gone from bad to worse for UNH this year, and this is just the latest.
Yeah, so these investigations can be sprawling. They can cover a lot of different areas. I don't believe the disclosure indicated what the nature of the investigation was, but there's significant investigators in the healthcare task force, fraud task force, there's Antitrust, there are a whole range of potential areas of investigations. And these subpoenas, criminal and civil, are quite invasive and they take a long time to resolve.
You said consequences could be significant. As much as getting kicked off Medicare Advantage? Is that the worst case scenario?
So technically, if they are, if they are found to have violated the law criminally, they have to be kicked out off Medicare Advantage. And so there's some questions about whether they can strike deals or do other things to have a less invasive penalty. But as a technical legal matter here, the outside consequences could be extraordinary.
Jonathan, I know as your time as an antitrust regulator, I don't think you had any rail deals to deal with, and obviously the Surface Transportation Board typically takes the lead. But I am curious to get your reaction, simply as an antitrust enforcer or a former one, to this possibility now, real possibility of transcontinental rail mergers, and what investors perhaps should be thinking about when it comes to that possibility.
Yeah, it's bold. So the DOJ does play a role. They provide input to the Surface Transportation Board. We did that on a number of deals during my tenure. This would be significant. I think it kind of breaks the brain for an antitrust enforcer because I don't think we ever thought we'd see a deal of this magnitude. We learned during the pandemic that if there is concentration in shipping, in transportation, that a time of a supply shock or demand shock for that matter, if shipping prices go up, the price of everything being shipped goes up. So I think there's going to be a lot of scrutiny here, not to even setting aside the labor and other concerns.
Although in this administration, much of it does seem to come back to what the president wants, as opposed to sort of the process, perhaps, that we've seen previously?
Well, that's the conventional wisdom. It's not supposed to be that way. And I think as a country, we should demand more. I think we need to look at these deals on the merits. As I mentioned, we learned again during COVID that if we are lax with making sure that we have vibrant supply chains and transportation, that we suffer the consequences when we need it most. That happened with ocean shipping. We tolerated a significant amount of concentration and regulatory immunities that ultimately led to massive fuel surcharges and overpricing in shipping during the pandemic, causing or contributing to an inflationary environment. I think if they are too lax with transportation mergers now, people are going to look back and, during the next crisis, which will inevitably occur, and history will not be kind to an administration that allows for unnecessary and undue concentration.
Interesting. If, in fact, though, that leash does get a little bit longer, could you imagine, if you game it out, a more deregulatory environment for other, at least areas of transportation, airlines, for example?
Well, this is kind of what happens, right? It's rare to have a big merger like this on its own. There's always a run, whether it's in oil or transportation or other areas. And so when you see your competitor get really big, you start throwing in as well. And so I think what the agencies have to think about is, okay, we're not just reviewing one merger, we're essentially setting rules of the road, no pun intended, for the next generation of mergers or the next round of mergers. And I think we have to decide as a country, like, do we want these already concentrated industries to become more concentrated? Now, rail has a fascinating history. The antitrust laws were built on oil and rail mergers. And so here we are kind of going right back to the olden days of Standard Oil.
All right, Jonathan, we appreciate you being here to talk about the two hot stories, both in rails and UnitedHealth. This new investigation. Jonathan Kanter.